Welcome to Born to Win Legends, where we bring you the real-life stories of the men and women who shaped the world with their courage, determination, and unbreakable will. These are not just tales of fame and glory. They are the legacies of those who were born to rise, born to fight, born to win. Today, we tell the story of one of the greatest legends of all time, Nelson Mandela. He was born as Rolihlahla Mandela on July 18, 1918, in the small village of Mvezo in the Eastern Cape, province of South Africa. His birth name, Rolihlahla, in the Xhosa language means pulling the branch of a tree. But colloquially, it also means troublemaker. From the beginning, Nelson Mandela was destined to challenge the norms of his society. Born into the Thembu royal family, his early years were influenced by tradition, tribal culture, and the African sense of unity and justice. Despite this royal heritage, Mandela's early life was not filled with luxury. He was only 9 years old when his father died. He was then taken to the Great Place in Kunu, where he was raised by Chief Jongintaba Dalindyebo, the acting regent of the Thembu people. The chief treated him like a son, and Mandela grew up with a deep sense of responsibility and leadership. He was given the opportunity to study, something not all children had at the time. He attended a Methodist school, where he was given the name Nelson by a teacher, following the custom of giving African children English names. As he matured, Mandela developed an unshakable sense of justice. He could not ignore the disparity and inequality that plagued his people under the oppressive apartheid regime. He studied at the University of Fort Hare, South Africa's first institution for higher education for Black Africans, where he started shaping his political beliefs. However, his journey at Fort Hare ended abruptly when he was expelled for joining a student protest. This rebellious act was just the beginning of a lifetime of resistance. Mandela later moved to Johannesburg, where he completed his BA through the University of South Africa and began studying law at the University of Witwatersrand. In Johannesburg, he encountered the harsh realities of systemic racism and injustice. It was there that he became actively involved with the African National Congress, ANC. He joined the struggle against apartheid, not with weapons, but with words, ideas, and leadership. Alongside Oliver Tambo and Walter Sisulu, he helped form the ANC Youth League, urging a more radical approach to the oppressive policies of the white minority government. In the 1950s, Mandela rose to prominence in the Defiance Campaign, a mass civil disobedience movement against unjust laws. He became known as a passionate and powerful orator, inspiring thousands to join the cause. Despite repeated arrests and surveillance, he continued to lead. Along with other leaders, he was charged in the treason trial, which lasted from 1956 to 1961. Though they were acquitted, Mandela knew the government was determined to silence him. In response to increasing state violence, Mandela co-founded Umkhonto we Sizwe, the armed wing of the ANC. While he remained committed to the ideal of peace, he believed armed resistance was necessary after all peaceful options were exhausted. In 1962, he was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Then in 1964, during the infamous Rivonia trial, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. His words from the dock became immortal. "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Nelson Mandela would spend the next 27 years of his life behind bars. Most of these years were at the infamous Robben Island prison, where he endured harsh conditions, physical labor, and psychological torment. But the prison bars could not confine his spirit. He studied, wrote, mentored, and waited. Over the years, he became a symbol, not just of resistance, but of hope. The world began to take notice. International pressure mounted on the South African government. Campaigns for Mandela's release gained momentum, and his image was seen on posters, banners, and walls around the globe. He became the face of freedom. In 1990, under President F.W. de Klerk, Nelson Mandela was finally released. He walked out of Victor Verster prison, not as a broken man, but as a living legend. The world watched as he raised his fist in triumph, surrounded by a sea of supporters. But his mission was far from over. Mandela immediately began negotiations with the government to dismantle apartheid and establish democratic elections. These negotiations were long and difficult, filled with tension and moments of crisis. Yet Mandela's calm demeanor, strategic mind, and ability to forgive kept the process on track. In 1994, South Africa held its first multiracial elections. Nelson Mandela, once considered a terrorist by some, became the first black president of South Africa. It was a victory not just for him, but for the entire nation. It was a moment that showed the world that peace, reconciliation, and unity were possible. As president, Mandela prioritized nation building and reconciliation. He famously wore the Springbok rugby jersey during the 1995 Rugby World Cup, uniting a nation divided by decades of hate. He initiated the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, led by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, to help heal the wounds of the past through testimony and forgiveness. Mandela served only one term as president, stepping down in 1999 to allow new leadership to emerge, but he never stopped working. Through the Nelson Mandela Foundation and other efforts, he continued to champion human rights, HIV/AIDS awareness, and peace worldwide. He received over 250 honors, including the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993, which he shared with F.W. de Klerk. His legacy inspired not just leaders, but everyday people across continents. He was a symbol of what one person's courage, resilience, and moral clarity can do. On December 5, 2013, Nelson Mandela passed away at the age of 95. The world mourned, but also celebrated a life that changed history. Nelson Mandela's journey, from a barefoot child in a small village to the president of a free nation, is the ultimate story of transformation. His life was a testament to patience, to sacrifice, to the idea that the long walk to freedom is worth every step, no matter how painful. He was not a perfect man, and he never claimed to be. But he was a man who rose above anger, who turned suffering into strength, who chose reconciliation over revenge. Mandela once said, "I am not a saint unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying." And that's exactly what he was. A man who kept on trying, even when the odds were impossible. A man who kept standing when everything around him said to sit down. A man who gave his life so that others could have theirs. This was Nelson Mandela. He was born to lead. Born to inspire, born to win, only on Born to Win Legends.